Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. We have the American election in a few days' time. And I was thinking to myself, we need somebody who's American, who's intelligent, who knows what's going on over there. And then I realized I didn't know anybody like that. So then but I did know somebody who is American and has lived over there, obviously. So I invited my friend Rob to come along and talk to us about the American election. Welcome, Rob, to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for that glowing introduction. At least I know I don't have to, there's not a high bar that I have to meet to meet that standard. So the only place for me to go from here is up. Now, and if I go down, I got more problems to deal with in the American election.
So the election's next week. Is it Thursday?
No, Tuesday.
It's Tuesday,
Tuesday.
right?
It's the same day as y'all's bonfire night.
Oh, right. So it's the fifth. So yeah, it's bonfire night.
Yep.
So not long to go. So for people who don't understand American politics, which let's be honest, which is most of the country, um, I've been looking online this last couple of weeks, and everything I'm seeing online is telling me Trump's going to win, but Trump is going to win big. Am I in an echo chamber? Am I just seeing things that are being sent to me, or is that the feeling on the ground over there, or is it not?
I don't know where you're getting your information from. I think that may be part of what I don't know where that specific type of information is coming from, so I can't judge it just by if you said it's coming from X location versus Y location. I think each side has their own external polling and internal polling, and you're never going to hear the internal polling. You're going to hear a lot of times what they want you to think. So in terms of it'll be a landslide, obviously we won't know until we know. I mean, I just can't gauge it. I don't even want to try because I always get it wrong. And will it be a landslide? I mean, I guess anything could happen. It could be a landslide the other way. Who know? Who know? Who knows? We just want it to be a fair and honest election, and or at least perceived as such. And I think that's the big key. As long as whatever happens, and it's perceived as being fair and honest, then I think things will will all survive. If it's whatever happens and if it's not perceived as a fair election, I think there'll be ramifications.
Right. So someone who's American, and obviously you got family friends over there, and you understand the system, and you're keeping updated with that,
And I still vote.
and you vote in the American elections. Um, is there anything different about this election that you felt people are telling you? Have you heard from people who would normally vote one way but are now voting another way, or is it all just too complicated?
Um, I think you know, for better or worse, Trump is a known entity. And I think people's, I think what's different about this is you see a coalition building around Donald Trump that wasn't there and definitely not there in 2016 and wasn't there in 2020, where he's brought in people from the unlikely allies that are helping him. So that's something completely different with Robert Kennedy, with Elon Musk, with Tulsi Gabbard. I don't want to get in too much in the weeds for Brits and stuff like that, but you're seeing a group of people that you would not have expected a few years ago coming rallying around him. Now, is that enough to make a difference? Time will tell. And I think with Kamala Harris, it's the circumstances of her getting the nomination are so unusual and so I don't know what the word is. She's didn't has not received.
Yeah, it seems underhand.
Some people feel that way because she has not received one vote, and yet she's the nominee, and other people think she's the best best thing ever. So yeah, this is a very strange time we're living in. Very strange.
Now, all elections are won and lost, most of the time on policies, on what people, on what the public want and what the politicians are offering. What are the core issues in America at the moment that both the candidates are fighting on? Is it the economy? Is it not going to war? Is it immigration? What are those core issues that they're fighting on?
You know, years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it would have been the economy. And Donald Trump should be a lock to win because with inflation, gas prices are high. Excuse me, petrol are high. Groceries are super expensive. House affordability is low. This should be a shoo-in for Donald Trump, and yet we don't know. There are so many outside factors. You've got the cult of personality here that seems to make a big difference with folks. Their pocketbooks might suck, but might not be in a good way right now. But and yet they can't. They hold their nose. They don't. It's very strange. And with Kamala Harris, um, you've got the woman, quote unquote, woman vote. They're desperate to get a woman in after Hillary got smashed. They don't want Donald Trump to do that to a second woman. The abortion situation, I don't know how much that has been a factor, but the Democrats are definitely trying to use that uh, to especially for the female vote. The male vote seems to be breaking towards Donald Trump, even with not just white men, but Hispanic men, black men. It appears that way. But there's a lot of discord. There's a lot of bad feelings over this. A lot of people are emotionally involved. If you say you're supporting X candidate, then this one's going to hate you. If you say you're voting for Y candidate, this one's going to hate you. I've never seen it in my adult life. I've never seen it divided as it is in 2024.
Right, wow. We thought the last couple of elections were divisive. Is immigration a big issue at this election?
Oh, I would say so. Illegal immigration is the border between the United States and Mexico. How many millions and millions of people have been let in? It's a similar situation, I think, in the UK. That you've got a government that seems to either in the nicest way seems to be, I guess, if you want to give them credit that I don't know, they're not able to do things, and in the worst circumstance, they're doing it willfully, letting all these people in. There just seems to be a lack of perception of fairness about this, that people who did it the right way, who waited their turn, who paid for it, you've got all these people that coming in are getting all this free stuff and are taking jobs and taking over. That's the perception of it. And Kamala Harris was Joe Biden made her the border quote unquote czar. Now the Democrats are have denied that, um, but that's a fact. That's a fact, and I do think that is going to play a part in this election.
Right. So for people watching, the American system is obviously different to the UK system. We vote in MPs. The party with the most MPs then forms the government. America has something called the Electoral College, which means there's 50 states. Each state's basically at so many points, depending on their population. So somewhere like California will get a lot of points because it's heavily populated. Somewhere like Dakota will only get a few points because it's only, and then depending how many states you win, you get those points, and the candidate with the most points then becomes president. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So you have to get the electoral majority. You can lose the popular vote and still become the president by winning the states that have the most, that add up to the most electoral yeah, to get the most electors. That person will be. We've seen that, Donald Trump did not win the popular vote when he ran against Hillary Clinton, but he won the presidency because he won enough states with the most electors that put him over the top.
Yes, so there's many states in America that we already know will be blue or red. It's 99% sure that California was are going to vote for Harris, and there'll be other states that we know will vote for Trump.
Sure. Florida for sure will be a red Republican state.
Yeah, but that leaves maybe half a dozen states that we don't know. They could go one way or the other. And it's those states which we call swing states, meaning we don't know who's going to win them. And who wins them wins the presidency because most of the other states have already been divided. We know who's going to win them. So a couple of states will decide this election. Is that correct?
Well, you can tell what seems to be up for grabs by where the candidates are campaigning. So, for example, Pennsylvania, you see them all in Pennsylvania. You see the celebrities supporting the candidates in Pennsylvania. You see a lot of action going on in not just Pennsylvania. That's one of them that could make or break the election between Trump and Biden in 2020, it was we're talking, you know, just a few thousands of votes made a difference and gave Biden the presidency. So they are definitely not taking these for granted. Now it seems, from what I've gathered, that Trump seems to have the momentum right now. There's been a few things that have happened in the news recently that you saw that President Biden referred to Donald Trump supporters as garbage. That did not go over very well. Uh, there's they're going to use whatever you can to try and convince those last voters. But yeah, it could, if the election is close, then these states matter. If the what you heard, you're saying that Trump is going to win state after state after state, then these states won't matter. It really just depends on how this falls. But again, as I said earlier, it has to be perceived as an honest counting. If there's irregularities, if they last time there was some they stopped some of the, I forget if it was Pennsylvania, I forget which state it was. They stopped counting for a while, and then there was a broken pipe situation in the where they were counting, and then those type of things, whether or not there was actually any shenanigans or not. It's the perception of it. And I really feel like Donald Trump will, if he loses, I think he will accept it if it's perceived as fair. If it is perceived, if he loses and there's perception of shenanigans and this and that, and remember, because the way the Electoral College works, it only takes a few states to make that difference. And so if somebody is trying to do something, whether it's Democrat side or Republican side, I'm not trying to take any side, but if if it's close, it only could take 2 or 3 states to make that difference. So if somebody's up to no good, you don't have to do it over the country. You don't have to go to California. You don't have to go to those states. It's the ones that will make a difference by 5,000 votes. So that it's that perception that will make the difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, not only do elections have to be fair, they have to be seen to be fair as well. Now, you guys will be counting for days and days and days. The American
Don't say that. I can't take it. Don't
the
say
American
that.
election isn't like a UK election where we have a competition who can get the results out quickest, and we're running around counting, and within 12 hours, everybody knows everything. It can take days in America. So over that period, what are the results? What are the states? What are the results we should be looking at to see how it's going? There's no point looking at New York. There's no point looking at California. There's no point looking at Florida. We know where they're going. what are the few results we should just be paying attention to, going, that's an important result?
Well, let me stop you for 1 second and correct you if you forgive me, not necessarily correct you, but Trump, President Trump just did that huge rally in Madison Square Garden in New York City. Now, the Democrats tried to paint that as a Nazi rally, which is another issue altogether. But I would actually, even though New York is reliably Democrat, I would look at those results because if it's close, if it's close, then that could spell good things for Donald Trump because he might not win it, but if he gets close to winning New York, which should be easy lock for Kamala Harris, then that could spell doom for the Democrat side. You see what I mean? That I would look at those states that are definitely locks. For example, if Florida got close for the Democrats, then that would be very bad for Donald Trump and very good for Kamala Harris. So I think those states are worth looking at. And if Trump won New York, then that landslide, that then you could be looking at a landslide. Now, do I honestly think that'll happen? I don't, because there's a lot of reasons for that. In addition, for California and New York, thousands of people have moved out of those states to get away from Democrat policies and moved to Florida, moved to Tennessee, moved to Texas. So many Californians have moved to Texas. They have lost population, and a lot of those people have left partly for economic reasons because of the high taxes and stuff like that. But part of it is because they feel they want to live in a, that's the beauty of the United States. You can pick any one of the 50 states that matches your belief system. I mean, you could do it for job. Most people do it for economic reasons, for jobs and stuff. But Texas is where the jobs are. Florida are where the jobs are. And there's a certain mindset that is not, obviously not everyone, but I'm just saying that, for example, Texas, now they were trying to put Texas into play for the Democrats because of a lot of the California people. Um, and if Texas ends up being very close for the Democrats, then that's a very good sign for Kamala Harris to win to win the presidency. If it's a blowout, then then you've got what you got. But I would definitely keep an eye on those states. But um, Pennsylvania, as I said, that's one to watch. Minnesota is one to watch. Colorado, they're calling for the Democrats, but that's one, I think that's one to watch. But remember, there because of the time zones, and the polls closed at different times, as it'll start off in the East Coast and work its way towards California in terms of results. Some of the results they'll call them right away, as they always do. If you remember in 2016 when Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, they were able to call that day that was called that night. It did not go on for days and days and days. The 2020 election, you had COVID, you had the lockdowns, you had mail-in ballots like had never been done before. There you had other factors that made a difference, I believe there.
Well, that's interesting. So even if we get a state that one of the candidates has no chance of winning, but we expect them to only get 15% of the vote, but they still lose, but get 30% of the vote, that means they've doubled their popularity in that losing state. And if you put that across all the states, well, that would be a huge victory for that candidate. So that makes sense.
That's right. And they're also talking, they keep breaking it down with demographics in terms of gender, in terms of sex, in terms of blue collar, white collar, where that college educated versus, that all of those kind of things and where that going. Uh, white women are voting this way. They're all of those. You're getting put in all of these boxes, and you see the Democrats specifically going after. You see white men for Harris, this campaign because they're trying to pull the men back in. And the perception is that especially that Donald Trump is the man's quote unquote man's character, that type of thing. Whether or not people buy into that, that's a different story. People vote with their pocketbooks. This should be a Donald Trump victory, but because Donald Trump is known so well, that's may not necessarily, but if people vote with their pocketbooks, it should be a good night for the Republicans.
Right. Well, we shall see. We've got a few days before we start looking at the results. And
Don't ask me to pick who I think is going to win. I'm like everyone, like every other American. I'm so nervous about it. I just want it to be over with. And I hope and pray that whatever happens, it's decided quickly. And I hope and pray that there's no ramifications of any kind of violence or people, anything like that. I just don't want to see that happen. That can only lead to bad things in the future. And I think we really need to to come together and just have to remember that most people are not political. Most Americans, most Brits are not political. I think you've got the 15% on each side. You've got the hardcore Democrats, the hardcore Republicans, and they clash and fight, and they're on Twitter screaming at each other. And most people are just good, regular people raising their family and want to live a life and take vacations sometimes. And we have to remember that we've got more that brings us together than that divides us. And I hope and pray that we come together, whatever happens on the day after, or the 2 days after, or the 2 weeks after, or the month after, whatever happens.
I agree. Thank you very much, Martin Luther King, for coming. Oh, sorry, you're not Martin Luther King. Sorry. Uh, Thanks, Rob, for coming on the show, and then let's catch up soon once we get the result.
No, thanks for having me, Nick. Good to talk to you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers. I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.